go. I will see how we are doing. I don't see a screen just yet. One second.
Michael.
Yes.
I love you.
Kissy, kissy.
Taco-flavored kisses for my Ben.
1 second.
Out of context.
Oh, none needed. Probably
Maybe some technical difficulty? Oh. Let's see what's going on here. Oh, we're good. Okay. I've just been staring at myself for a whole minute. Isn't that nice?
You look great, though.
Oh, yeah, well, I guess so.
You look fabulous.
Thanks. All right, Will.
All right, so are we live?
Yeah, we are good to go. Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, greetings, programs. We here at Wicked Foundations are doing a live Q&A. We had a couple of questions sent in, not by our mothers. And we're going to be going down each of them. But first, I believe it's in the same order that I can see here. The person at the very top is Mike. He is our lead designer and comedy relief. The man in the middle is Charles. He is the producer, CEO, founder, overlord of Wicked Foundations. And as for me, I'm sort of face. And right now, B.A. Baracus isn't available. He's traveling in Europe.
On a plane.
On a plane. Extra points for those of you who got the obscure old person reference. But we also have a number of questions to go over. But first, we're going to toss it to Charles, our producer, and he is going to explain how to get more of our stuff in the future, because that's probably the biggest question, is where to get more of the product that we had that you might have missed from Kickstarter, etc. Charles.
Right. So towards our left, we'll see the kind of the game on tabletop site. This is that thing that everybody's like, what is this? Basically, it's like Kickstarter, but way more user-friendly. It is not up yet. Remember, it's March 15th. And you can see everything on the sides here. We have all of the purchasables, everything here. Now, when it comes to accessing and how it will work, you basically can go in. Let's say you want the Blossom of Pestilence. You can go in and click there. And then once in there, you will see every listing. Talks about any add-ons. So let's say you also want the Carcosa. You can click onto that. And everything is added in as well. And it's pretty simple. We think that this site will be a hell of a lot easier than other pledge managers. But what's good about Game on Tabletop and what they're doing for us is that basically, hey, it's allowing a pledge manager and a sort of crowdfunding service at the same time. So people who have already put in the money on Kickstarter, you don't have to pay anymore. It's just transitioned over to Game on Tabletop, where we will be doing everything else, including shipping. But that's all I want to really talk about, to kind of give you guys a little bit of an idea of what Game on Tabletop looks like. I'll be giving more updates on it the more I learn about it.
Do we have an estimate when that'll be live?
March 15th, yep.
Okay, so March 15th is definitely locked in.
Yeah, it is definitely locked in.
What about vendors? Vendors can buy materials from here as well and then resell them?
No, the vendor one was only on Kickstarter. We're having it to where it's only for the individual sale. So if you're a vendor and you want to do the bulk sale, you're going to have to speak with us directly at our email. If you don't know, it's info@wickedfoundations.com, or you can email me directly at charles@wickedfoundations.com. Either way, it comes to me.
And in the description of this YouTube video, once we record it and save it, you'll have our website at the bottom. You can easily click on.
Absolutely.
You can contact any of us that way as well.
Absolutely.
Okay, so on to the questions.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, well, the first one is a multi-parter. You know what? I'll save the big multi-parter one for last because darn it, just so darn fun. So let's start with the second one we got. Will there be any resin versions of the sculpt that can be added to orders?
Okay, so that's an interesting question. Currently, right now, there is not, and that's mainly because of the extra costs there is. For instance, a mold cost for an individual piece or an individual miniature can range upwards to $8,000. Do that for the whole line, you're looking at an extra $70,000 just for one collection tier. So in our current state, that is a no, but that doesn't mean we won't do it in the future. If popularity arises and people really want that, we can definitely provide it for you. So that's a maybe.
Also, I'd like to wonder, and I don't know, which is why I'm
Mhm.
wondering, given how rapidly manufacturing of this nature on a micro scale is advancing, I wonder if there'll be different mold materials or if we can see resin for a more cost-effective price point down the road.
Resin is cheaper than hard plastic when it comes to their mold, and that's mainly because resin molds, they don't produce a high enough quantity like the hard plastic molds. So they're more for those individuals who are wanting more of a higher quality. Kind of that would be more similar to our 3D printed models. But from what I'm seeing and from when I'm looking at the numbers, we're more likely to give the pay for URL or pay for 3D printed codes rather than do the actual resin models. But then again, nothing's set in stone.
Got it. All right.
Mhm.
Okay, the second question. Will we be able to see, and by we I mean the customer base, will we be able to see the additional stretch goals and the progress towards them in the Pledge Manager?
Yes, definitely. So Wicked Foundations is unlike all these other sort of Kickstarters in the past. We only provided a number of stretch goals that we thought we could actually produce. So a lot of backers has already seen that we had the blood-soaked toys moved on down. That was, I think it's Temptation of Jade, which has the blood of Tolok. Everyone wanted the blood of Tolok. We hit that one. We hit the Table Mimic. We were about to hit the Bard.
Yeah, the Maestro.
Right, but he's there. We're bringing him onto Game on Tabletop. If we hit the goal, he's unlocked. People can make the purchase, and then there is, of course, already leaked information. Baphomet's there, which is our own version that kind of takes on. It's not like the D&D one. It's more of Satanist type version, and then mix it into a whole
It's
fantasy
a little
setting.
less late '90s grunge edgelord.
Right.
And yeah. So I really like our approach to Baphomet. I had nothing to do with Baphomet yet.
Oh yeah, definitely. So you'll see everything like that, and the Baphomet collection has a huge amount of stuff that's in it. Currently, that one's being kind of worked on too. The estimation dates on all the stretch goals are 2021. We couldn't do them for 2020. 2020 is already booked with so much other stuff we have going on. Grandma Malka being actually one of the hardest ones to manufacture because literally her 50 millimeter based miniature is about approximately, I think it was 60 pieces to put together because she's like on a throne of people. So,
there's a bunch of
Is
fiddly
that what
bits.
we got it down to?
It used to be more, but because we wanted to keep the detailing there, the manufacturer was going to strangle me, but they were like, fine, we like your money, so we'll keep it at this rate. So when you buy these, you're going to be putting them together. Grandma Malka is the only one that's that in depth, but the quality of hers is just incredible. So if you like your body chair, it's there.
What were you saying, Mike?
Oh, no, just a lot of fiddly bits.
Oh, lots of fiddly bits.
And that's what she likes to call them. What is contained in Tales of Terror Dark Menagerie? I'm still a bit confused. And, well, first up, before we go over what's exactly in the Tale of Terror Menagerie, it's now locked. It's gone off to the formatter. But part of the confusion was that we ourselves didn't know exactly what you as an audience wanted, limited or not limited to. And at the last minute, Charles rustled up Mike and I and added material that seemed to be of interest to the readership. So part of the confusion was that we ourselves were a little confused. But now it's locked, and for what's in it, Charles, take it away.
Oh yeah, definitely. So Tales of Terror Dark Menagerie, don't think of an actual huge monster manual. All the monsters that we've been talking about, especially the Grandma Malco collection, the Twisted Toymaker collection, and the Strigor collection, are all bundled in this book. So that's 11 monsters. These 11 monsters are heavily detailed, meaning we talk about them to the utmost, from lore, write-up. Will's worked on so many stories with them. We also went into layers. We actually created layer maps for all of them. Loot when you kill them, special loot for everything, even ways in which they die. So there is just, think more of, you know what, Volo's Guide. Think more like a Volo's Guide, small version of Volo's Guide. So I think on Kickstarter we have it at $15, and Game on Tabletop's also going to be at $15. And MSRP we're looking at $24.99. So it's not overly expensive. Right now we're looking at possibly doing it in a perfect bound or saddle stitch. If you're not familiar with either of those, I believe I have some examples somewhere around here. So the printing press, we're looking at maybe possibly doing a saddle stitch. Like this is an example through a Cobalt press. Saddle stitch is anything with kind of like the staples there. They're selling this for like $19.99. It really doesn't have any illustrations in it, but you know, you got your saddle stitch, and then perfect bound. It's it does have a spine, unlike the saddle stitch. Saddle stitch doesn't have a spine, but it is used with glue, so these will crack over time. They're not going to last as long. Saddle stitch will, but I don't know how the consumer will feel about it. So maybe we'll do a whole survey about that.
Yeah, we might, because I remember the perfect bound was how I got all my Star Wars 3.5 editions, extra stuff like the ship manual and the gear, and those still held up, but I can definitely see those breaking. But the saddle stitch was like the Warhammer monthly that I would get would come like that. What are the odds, and I know people ask this, what are the odds of getting any of this in any type of hardback? Is there any plans for that for now or down the road?
I would have to work with a Chinese manufacturer. So currently the book is going to be manufactured here in the United States. But if we do hardbound, there's no way I would do it here. Like the book would be upwards to maybe $60. And from the material that we have right now, I will never allow somebody to pay such a price. Later down the road, when we have a lot more monsters and we compile into like an omnibus, then definitely we will do a hardbound, and we may do it overseas. So
got it. So like one day we might have a 350-page collection hardcover.
Yep, definitely.
Okay.
So right now, Wicked's vision is just putting out these kind of smaller little manuals that will eventually add up to a whole compendium, a whole omnibus.
Now, where is this available online, or is it available online?
So we do have the beta playtest one that's still available. That one's not free anymore. I would hold up, but if you really want to like take a look at what, like get a little sneak peek, you can definitely go in there. But there are big differences. So a lot of people have play tested our material, came back through our surveys, and we changed a lot of their mechanics. I know Mike loved it. Mike really loved those changes. We made things a little bit harder. Strigor changed. Donald Beast changed a bit. I think the Twisted Toymaker collection didn't change as much. Oh, except Tabitha. Tabitha changed.
Yeah.
And I think the
One thing
Orphanarium
changed with
collection.
Malco, but I think Agni and Ecstasy stayed the same, didn't they?
Yes, Agony and Ecstasy stayed the same. Infantile Visages changed because that whole collection is very weird because they're considered one monster. They all act in unison.
Right.
If you haven't read anything about them or have looked at our free PDF at the time, you're probably like, what? One monster? Mike and I really had a fun time.
Shout out to Malka. Malka is a massive encounter, whereas everything else can be kind of approached in stages or isolated. But Malka, when you activate her, you encounter her, you get all of her fun in one shot, and it's beautiful.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, she's not a throwaway character.
No,
definitely not.
So with So it's available on Drive-Thru RPG, or where will the
Oh, right.
PDF of this be?
The beta PDF that's currently available is on DriveThruRPG. Now, once Game on Tabletop is done, which we do not have a finalized date, I did hint a date on our Kickstarter campaign, but I'm not 100% sure if I want to use that date for the ending. But once it's ended, our actual website will have the PDF available, so you can actually purchase it on there.
Okay.
And then for the actual copies, I gave a date. I don't have it off the top of my head right now, but once we go into actual printing, and once that goes through, people will be getting that book pretty quickly. Miniatures will take a little bit longer. They'll be somewhere in December, but the books will be coming out in
Now,
March.
what's the MSRP expected for the PDF through our site?
Currently, it's almost like the actual physical copy, like pricing with the Kickstarter, and that would be $15. So
Okay.
it's $15 for the digital, and then you $24.99 for the physical, if you're paying later on. But if you go on Game on Tabletop when it unlocks, you're going to be getting the book at $15. So now's the time to get it.
Okay. Okay. Will Wicked Foundations create a campaign-setting book in the future, and for what systems? Now, I got thoughts on that, and I know Mike has thoughts on that. So do you want to start with you first, Charles, and we'll bounce back to Mike for details?
No, I'm actually curious what Mike thinks on this because I'm not 100% sure on it. I like the idea.
The idea of most likely would happen is that as we create lore and background for each of these creatures, they don't exist in a vacuum. By and large, they all exist in the same kind of space. And as things get fleshed out for each individual creature, it also fleshes out the rest of the world. And we see like little strips of how this world actually is. As enough creatures get made, enough of the picture coalesces, and it starts to become viable to have an actual whole campaign that can spread from those. We're not there yet. It's the North Star on the horizon, as it were. When we do something like that, we would likely use our own an own rule system. We would likely implement something like that. We wouldn't necessarily incorporate something like 5e or Pathfinder or anything like that. We would likely use our own. But for right now, it's still a distance.
Oh yeah, definitely. But as like rule sets, you were saying, I would absolutely love to do a whole new system. But beginning with maybe a 5e version, seeing that's as popular as it is, and if people want to convert into another system, then we'll do that, and then work our way up to a newer system. Something to call ours instead of having to use the open gaming license.
Yeah, I haven't heard much call from our fan base for Pathfinder 2 conversions or Cypher system conversions, but Mike's affluent with both of those systems.
Yeah, I've used both.
Yeah, 1E seems to be very popular still. Of course, they produce so much material. So I got more on the 1E than I ever did with the second edition. But the second edition hasn't been around too long. I know I did buy the book when they had the playtest versions, but I don't know how much of a difference they had from their playtest version from then their second edition.
I really like the blocking and shield mechanic for Pathfinder 2. I think that's pretty slick.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be curious to see how that gets. If that is one of those ideas that looks good but doesn't necessarily last long among player base or not, time will tell.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the short answer is yes.
Exactly.
And the long answer is yes.
Yes.
2 comic reliefs.
Oh, well, that was actually our next question. Will we see Tales of Terror, Dark Menagerie be converted to Pathfinder 1st E and 2nd E, which is what we just said? If you want it and it'll sell, it'll be hard to talk Charles out of making it.
Right. Yeah. I like art, so anything to like throw art in a book. I don't know. feel like
Well,
one of our
we
strengths
wouldn't
is
have
the
to.
art.
We'll be using a lot of the similar art assets, obviously. But the conversion over to second edition. Oh no, Charles! Like, no, I want all new art.
Oh,
Charles,
no,
Fresh
that's
bad
baked
Charles,
out of the
bad
oven
Charles.
off
Bad
the.
Charles.
businessman. Bad businessman.
He's like, I sold a kidney. I'm gonna get a few more artists.
Like, no, Charles, no.
Okay.
But
Art is
yeah,
my
if
weakness.
you want Pathfinder, just message us through whatever venue you've got available online or whatever. Because Charles listens. He'll get a message from someone at 3 in the morning and like text us and be like, so please, we're an infant company. We're very much in the stage where we listen to every bit of feedback.
Oh, we have a friend, Alcatraz. He said, I'd love to see Pathfinder 3.5 rules for the creatures. Oh, we
you want
got
to do
one
the old,
vote.
yeah.
We got one vote for
See,
it.
I'm not familiar enough with Pathfinder 2e, but
Well, this one's 3.5. I think he's
that
referring
was
to
the first
D&D,
Pathfinder.
which is
That
first
was
Pathfinder, yeah.
before Dungeons and Dragons 4e just kind of bumbled its way onto the scene like the Kool-Aid Man and face planted.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if we were to
Or
carry
D&D.
my laptop over and look at our bookshelf, it's like all 3.5 and Pathfinder stuff.
Mhm.
And that would be a fairly easy conversion, I think. But
Yeah.
that would be Mike's wheelhouse and not mine.
It's going to be a lot more pages, that's for sure. There's a lot more details that need to go through it.
And let's see what else we got. When can we expect shipping cost estimates? And we completely understand how important this question is to everyone and how much we want to answer it. But I'll bounce that back to Charles because he's a poor bastard who has to answer it.
I'm already shaking in my boots. So, okay. The problem with the shipping is that I don't want to throw a number out there and then be called out on it. Right now, the manufacturer is currently on vacation. It's hooray, Happy New Year in China. Well, they're a week off. And so manufacturing has stopped. We don't have any weights available. We don't even have any estimate on weights available. And for me to give an accurate shipping rate, I need the weights for them as well as the packaging. So once I get those in, or at least a good estimate on them, then I can shoot out those estimates to all the backers. So in due time, the only thing I can say is you'll get that information probably when we're nearing shipment. I think pretty much nearing shipment. So we're looking probably in November, September between September to November.
We completely understand frustration in not having the numbers yet, but please, like Charles said, we don't want to steer anyone wrong.
Right.
And we really appreciate the patience.
Silence is as honest as we can be.
Yeah. So we don't want to fill the void with just nonsense. And that big question we got, what are your team members' favorite horror monsters? Favorite horror movies and literature? And are there any plans to do a Wicked Foundation's take on classic or existing concepts? I would like to do this backwards if we can.
All right.
I'm going to kind of answer the last part first. Are there any plans to do Wicked Foundation's take on classic or existing concepts? Charles comes up with about 90%, if not more so, of the concepts and says, I would like to see a monster that does this or a monster that's like that. So in a roundabout way, and a lot of people can probably notice this with the discerning horror eye, that nearly all of our concepts are based on previous things, be it the Yellow King, be it elements that you might have noticed from Spirited Away and things of that nature. Even though Agni Next Sea have sort of like Neo-Broke or Neo-Rokokan armor design, they harken a lot to anime, and people recognize elements of them in other media. And we will continue to do so. You will see a lot more almost Aztec and Olmec critters showing up. You will see stuff from Southeast Asia. I particularly have a few ideas for Malaysian creatures. And if you want to see something crazy, Malaysian folklore. So you're going to be seeing sort of globe trotting of a lot of monsters and critters from South America, Central America, Central Africa, places like that. We will do our best not to completely overtly reinvent them, and we don't want to dull these particular creatures from existing folklore and whatnot with our Western sensibilities. We want to still make sure to maintain their edge and not fully culturally appropriate them, because they're distinct and fabulous on their own. But we also need to make them work within a game mechanic setting to where it's fun. But you'll be seeing a lot of stuff from all over the world. So that was, I mean, Charles, anything to add to that, or did I pretty much?
Yeah, basically, we have done existing. Grandma Malka is based off the concept of Hansel and Gretel. Twisted Toymaker almost gives off that Freddy Krueger feel. The Strigor is more of like a mixture between a Lovecraftian feel, kind of like the Black Goat. Vornot is definitely inspired by Barbara W. Chambers' The King in Yellow, or Duraleth's version of Haster, which is inspired by H.P. Lovecraft. So we got a lot of stuff that we already get our inspiration from. Are we going to directly bring it in? Like, let's say our version of a Cerberus and use their name and everything? Not 100% sure if we're going to.
Yeah,
do
it won't be a one-to-one conversion.
Right. It'll be more of like inspired by.
Yeah, everyone's got a Cerberus, but if we were to do something, it would be almost like a steampunk mechanical Cerberus runs on ice or something.
Possibly.
That's actually kind of cool now that I think about it. So, okay, rewinding a bit. What are your team members' favorite horror monsters? And this person also said horror movies and literature. So,
sorry, that's a separate question. Okay.
How about you favorite horror, and then our favorite your favorite horror monster in movies? Go.
You broke up there.
Yeah, he is breaking up. I was just wondering if it was me.
No, it's there. All right, okay. You're good now, Will.
Hear me? Oh, sorry. Did you hear anything I said?
Nope, not a thing.
That's probably
let the audience know the question again.
Okay, favorite horror monsters in either film or literature, and we'll start with you, Mike.
Okay. As far as like the thing that actually gave me nightmares, the strange thing that actually pops up is the old computer game Fear.
Mm-hmm.
You mean the game that you couldn't play and you had me play and you watched me play it?
It was scary. I actually got nightmares from that game. That is the only game to give me nightmares. So yeah, that's scary. And if you haven't played the game, it's very much like something like The Ring or what's that one with Sarah Michelle Gellar with the Grudge. Except it's a first-person shooter game that's like all the stuff is like right in your face happening with all the freakiness. That is probably the most specific form of fear. As far as movies goes, probably Freddy Krueger would be the most iconic, since its big rise in popularity, Russian popularity, was kind of like in my childhood days, and so that was the big thing. In fact, when I was in elementary school and middle school, they had this idea where if someone came to pick you up that you didn't know, you would have to give a phrase or a word or something that so you would know that a stranger was okay to pick you up. Like, oh, my parents told you, or your parents are in an accident, we have to pick you up. Well, you would have a phrase that you would give. Our phrase was Freddy, as in Freddy Krueger. Something that no one would guess. And even spelled properly.
Cock-thirsty or something.
I didn't have enough space to fill that out on the pickup card
at the front office.
Yeah, exactly. But so Freddy Krueger would probably be from like films. That would be the most iconic mental absorption that I had.
Have you seen them all, Mike?
I believe I have.
I don't even know what they're talking about.
Even Freddy versus Jason.
Oh God. New Nightmare was that the one where Wes Craven's New Nightmare? Or
Wes
whatever,
Craven,
when he
yeah.
played the actor
Hmm.
who was convinced he. That was fun. I liked that one.
That was
That
a
one
bit
and
of meta-ness that was enjoyable.
Yeah, that was good stuff. I liked 3 as well. All right. So anything of literature? Because you said video games, you said movies.
Literature. Ooh. Probably nothing that I would say like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein or anything, because those kinds of things I didn't really see as horror.
Mhm.
I saw them more as like gothic, more commentary on times, having larger themes, not really horrific themes. Although people may have thought of that in that era because of some of the more violentness of the times, but now it's very blasé. In terms of literature, I would say like scary stories to tell in the dark.
Oh my God!
I love those illustrations.
Yeah,
those-
that was nightmare fuel right there.
Yeah, someone really hated children. They were in the library when I grew up.
So technically literature, though not classical, but that would be the brain fuel for some
Just
things.
scary. Yeah,
The
if
writing
you
was-
don't know what we're talking about,
Okay.
I know that Del Toro like helped make a movie version of it, but you just
Mhm.
I didn't hear
Google-
good things about it at all.
No.
Oh, I didn't see it.
I
But
haven't
just
seen
Google
it.
like Tales of Tell in the Dark, children's book illustrations, and just enjoy the horror
Oh,
because
yeah.
holy crap.
Yeah, whoever they got they did not pay the artist enough money.
Yeah, his pen doesn't stroke; it bleeds onto the canvas and paper. It's just every stroke is violence in that. It's amazing. God, isn't it funny that out of all the literature, Mike, you picked children's books? All right, Charles.
All right, so it was what? Literature and then movies.
Well, and also
So-
video games if you play video games. But I know
Well,
you're
yeah,
not
I
much of a
mean,
video gamer.
it's hard. Like, I never played Silent Hill, but I always watched my friends play it. I was never the biggest video game player, but I would watch them play, and they would go, "You bought the game for us to play?" I'm like, "Yeah, I want to look at all the creepy monsters." So, like, I remember when I first saw Pyramid Head, I almost lost my shit. I was so excited.
Did you see the French film? Oh, what's his name? He's the same guy who did Brotherhood of the Wolf, but he did a movie of Silent Hill.
Oh, I love that.
Have you seen the movie?
Yeah. Mhm.
I thought it was pretty good if you just cut out Sean Bean's part. But sorry, no, go ahead. So Pyramid Head.
So I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna go with what he said. So I'm not gonna do the video game because I was writing it down. I was thinking when Mike was talking. I'm so glad I had time. So with movie, I'm gonna go with Alien, the first Alien, not Aliens, not Alien 3. I like my Xenomorphs. The reason why I liked Alien 1 is Alien 1 was the only one that felt like horror to me. Alien 3, they were trying to bring back the horror feel again, but kind of fell short. But Alien 1, I love it. The way the spaceship is and everything. Like, when you're with the filmography throughout it, it just gives me that goosebumpy feel. I just
Dark
love
and claustrophobia.
It's a
Mhm.
gothic haunted house in space.
Yeah, definitely.
I didn't think
And-
personally it was nearly as good, but if you see Event Horizon, the gothic lighting and architecture of the ship is fantastic.
Watch it on mute.
Yeah, just skip the screenplay, just nah. But it's a beautiful looking film.
Huh. I'll definitely have to try that one out.
Yeah, so the whole ship looks like a cathedral, like it's right out of Warhammer 40,000.
Okay, yeah.
Whereas in Alien, everything looked like it was a trucker's, kind of cab.
Uh-huh. Well, I
I'm
just
sorry,
loved
go ahead.
H.R. Geiger's work. Like anything, all of his paintings. I remember when I was a kid and I was in the Books A Million, I saw just an art book of his. And, I saw Alien when I was 8 years old. Imagine my drawings. They were all just heads exploding with a xenomorph. Yeah, I my dad, he divorced from my mother, and I could just imagine the girls that would come over to his apartment just seeing all my crayon colors of just people bloody. They were probably like, "This kid is mental. There's something
it's
wrong
like
with this
blocking
kid."
And then showing your picture to your dad. You put this on the fridge.
So I want to rewind and review everyone what we've learned about Charles today. When he was 8, he saw Alien and went through H.R. Geiger's art book, which is just penises and vaginas, at Books A Million as a kid, which inspired him to end his father's sex life.
And then you look at the Strigor and you're reading it and you're like, "What's that attack called again?" And then I'm like, nothing.
You made a career out of it, though.
I made a career out of it. That's great. People
You
want
took
it.
lemons and you made lemonade.
Yeah, let's see if people call it what it is. No, that's just its mouth. Right.
Pink lemonade.
I haven't even gone into my book. Now the
Yeah,
book
what
is
about
kind of
literature?
the literature is kind of cheating. Like I'm a big fan of Clive Barker, so
Oh, yeah.
So I mean, what is it? Midnight Meat Train. I always forget the Cenobites came from
The short story, I
Hellraiser?
forget its name.
what is it
But it's-
called? Heart shaped note.
No, that was the Nirvana song.
I don't even listen to Nirvana.
For those of you out there with a computer easily available to you, you can probably Google it instead of watching us struggle with the name of it. But yeah, the Cenobites
That.
came from a short story that was really good.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny you say that because my horror monsters would definitely be the Cenobites.
Cenobites are amazing. That's why we have something inspired by them. You know.
They sound like a snack I'd bring to lunch. Try our Cenobites! Now with 50% more cinnamon! Ah!
Drink them with power thirst. The
Have a
thirst
Capri
for
Sun!
That's the ultimate torture, though. Like, try eating that much cinnamon, you'll choke. Cinnamon.
Oh, yes. Hell is the cinnamon challenge.
You gotta try it. Just at least once.
Yeah, Clive Barker does such a good job. I know even like the McFarlane action figures that he helped design.
Oh, right.
He
Mhm.
really knows how to work with skin. And so, like, a lot of horror people have certain particular targets, like they target children or they target this or target that. But Clive Barker really goes for the skin. And I love his not so subtle social commentary aspects, especially when he was closeted and then he came out. Like with Nightbreed, just feels like this giant underground gay club during the Stonewall riots. It's awesome. But yeah, for me, film would probably be the Cenobites because they're understandable. And much like you with the penis monsters and Alien and Mike with the sexual predator, the best horror comes from our sexual vulnerabilities often. And the Cenobites really nailed that. And also kind of an empathy. Like, I can empathize with this. Okay, I can see that this guy looked for the edges of sensation and he found them and embraced it. That's okay. You do you, buddy. But and I even like Hellraiser.
Hellbound
2.
Heart. Man,
That's what
are
it was.
amazing.
Thank you.
The Hellbound Heart.
Hellraiser 2 was awesome as well. If you've ever seen Hellraiser 1 and 2, they're great. Stop there. But Hellraiser 1 and 2, there's a line in 2 when this person gets converted to a Cenobite and they're like, "To think I hesitated." It is just the creepiest scene. So good.
What was the one with the CDs? It like shot CDs. That one was. So
I think
stupid.
that was 2. Yeah, that was
Oh,
the psychiatrist
no.
who winds up trying to convert himself into it. I think that was 2, where he was shooting stuff and attacking the other Cenobites.
Yeah, a lot of inspiration from our Baphomet comes from, and nobody knows about it, but a lot of what Baphomet's whole collection is very Clive Barker inspired. Voronaut's going to be a little bit more on the Geiger inspired, so the whole layer is going to look quite interesting.
For me, Fear was great because, like Mike had said, I really empathized with Alma. She was the monster, but also very much the victim. God, there was a game I played called Amnesia.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
that
That's
you
ringing
had
a
to
bell.
stay out of the water because when you're in the water, this thing could see you, and
Mhm.
you couldn't see it, and you just see its footprints kind of in the water as it came for you, and that was a stressful game. The first Outlast was a great horror game, and it's funny because I tend to like vulnerability in my horror games,
Mm.
but with fear, like Mike said, you've got assault rifles, rail guns, you're armed to the teeth. But it even cranked up your vulnerability further because all of this was useless against Alma, and it was really neat. Um, hmm. Probably the scariest game I ever played was probably Missile Command in the arcade. Because every time you dropped a quarter in there, you were going to lose. It was just a matter of how long you could hold out and how many millions of people would die and what order you chose for them to die in.
So really, the horror is the backstory.
Well, I mean, when I was playing Missile Command, I mean, any kid with imagination is like, oh, these are all cities and these are all bases. Oh my god, I have to choose who dies first. And that was the hard part. That was that game in the arcade freaked
You
me
had a
out.
serious childhood.
Yeah. Now, mind you, not watching Alien at 8 kind of serious.
I loved it though. I wasn't scared. I just loved all of it.
Really?
Oh, and Alien Resurrection. And I know it's horrible now, but as a kid, like that was some messed up stuff.
Is it
There
really
was one
horrible or is
scene.
it just French?
Yeah. The third one was by a French guy also, but I think that one went
No, it
through
was
so
David
many
Lynch, I
different
think.
directors. But it went through so many different directors, didn't it? It was
Yeah,
like
there was a huge bunch of problems with the third film. You can
I
get the
feel like
director's cut with an extra hour, and it's funny. Mike and I
an
watched it,
extra
and
hour.
Mike and I both were like, "Wow, Alien 3 was a good film. It just wasn't a good Alien film."
Hmm.
And that's kind
Mm.
of where we landed on it. It's a beautiful film. Holy crap,
Mm-hmm.
it's a beautiful film. Um, I
I'm
wish
gonna have to
movies
rewatch
still
it.
looked that good because it felt like in post production people get lazy with their film lighting now, whereas back then it was just meticulous. It was gorgeous.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so Cenobites probably for film horror monsters. Also, big shout out to the Babadook.
Oh
Because
yeah.
I love monsters with elements of analog in them.
Illustration. We had the illustration come out.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes, you're glitching, but I can hear you.
Okay.
Oh, you're back.
All right.
Okay.
Sorry.
So the ritual
Okay.
monster, I loved it because when I first saw it, I was like, wow, this is giving the same vibe as our Strigor. You know, it has like the same feels and stuff. And I don't know, it's exciting seeing a movie that almost it's like the director and I kind of had like the same mindset because I never saw the movie. The movie wasn't even out yet, and then it came out, and then my friend Garrett was like, "You have to watch this movie. Go watch it. It reminds me of Mr. Gore." I watched it, and I'm like, "Holy crap! That's
Yeah.
literally like our campaign that we were creating with all of these like hags and everything in this hut, trying to get more people to come in." So I loved it. I loved The Ritual. It's a good movie. Rewatch it 3 times, then it starts losing it. But that's just because I watched it too many times.
I like it especially because it dealt with understandable human cowardice.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I've been there.
You're right.
I've been a complete coward, and I've associated very closely with that main character. I thought that was great. As far as literature goes, it's hard because a monster that's scary in literature is one thing, but a book that's scary is another. And I think I prefer being unnerved in my literature than flat out boo. I found House of Leaves very unnerving. Um, it was too clever for its own good, but I found it wonderfully unnerving. But I think the best book I read that really punched up the horror elements, even though the book is psychologically antiquated from a psychiatric point of view,
Mm-hmm.
William Peter Blatty's Exorcist really stands out as having some very unnerving prose. I did not care for the movie much. I even saw the movie first, and I was like, eh. But I was genuinely impressed with the book. He knows exactly when to fragment sentences, when to clip down and punch particular verbs. He knew when to push adverbs to it would appall Mark Twain, but he pushed adverbs in the right spot. It was good. It was some deft prose. I was really impressed by The Exorcist as a book. But that would be it for me.
Very good.
And that
Well,
was the last of our questions.
Well, no worries. Now's the time to look at our live feed, see what we have here. Lester Burton wrote, for each of you, what do you think is the most important or effective element of horror, and how do you bring that into Tales of Terror and future games? Will, would you like to go on that one?
Where'd Mike go?
Oh, Mike's right here. Do you see him?
No, he just went blank.
He
Oh, well.
did go blank.
I don't know. While you figure that out, I'll answer. I would say horror requires two things: vulnerability and perversion.
Mike, are you there?
Maybe he disconnected. He might be back. I'll keep an eye on my phone in case he texts us. Preferably not a dick pic this time, but you never know. So yeah, the big thing for me would be vulnerability and perversion. So vulnerability you need for anything that requires suspense. So that's normal in action or adventure or whatever. But the perversion is you take something that should be safe and invert it. Village of the Damned, children should be safe, and you twist them. Another great horror movie was In the Mouth of Madness, where you take something as safe as reading a book, as pedestrian as reading a book, and you pervert it into something horrific. That's the big thing for horror, is taking something that's supposed to be normal and safe and making it abnormal. And fantasy does something similar, but instead of perverting it, it makes the bland seem whimsical and the whimsical seem bland, which tends to work for fantasy. But with horror, it's always finding what people are most comfortable with and then systematically pulling that apart to where it's uncomfortable. And the slower you do it, the better. Really good examples of horror movies that do that is there's a French film called Inside, which is brilliant. A pregnant woman in her apartment is assaulted by another woman who traps her in there. And first off, a pregnant woman is obviously something that 99% of humanity will do its best to protect. But the fact that we see from the fetus's perspective all the trauma going on outside really drives that shit home. And it, you're supposed to be thinking that nothing is safer on this earth than a child and its mother, and this movie destroys that. So yeah, perverting those safe zones are what really makes horror work. What do you think, Charles?
Definitely. The only thing is bringing that horror into like games, especially the stuff that we produce, is that we're in the moment of selling miniatures. So everything that we create cannot just be just a feeling. It has to be an image. And so some of the difficulties behind that is taking something human, and that's why a lot of our monsters are very humanoid based and are pretty much body horror. Is that it's something that we can all relate to, and it bothers us because it's manipulating one's own body. So when it comes to products, like I said, it's a little harder. In Will's department, when it comes to the writing of it, yeah, definitely you can talk about the feeling of the environment. But when it comes to the actual sales, and I know with Mike has to do the mechanics of things. He has to make things that seem very out of the ordinary. And I know Mike can go over stuff like that and how different our mechanics are from just regular 5e monsters. Would you like to go over those? Oh, I don't think we can hear you, Mike.
Mike!
He fell flat. I don't know what happened, but I
All
brought
right.
him back.
Fixing... Oh, there he is.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
No worries.
Yeah. There's a tendency in at least 5e and throughout the monster manual, and it was a necessary requirement on their part that many of the mechanics for the monsters of 5e are similar. There are reasons why so many creatures have a slam attack, or a necrotic field, or acid damage, or a fire breath, or something like that. Because once you were familiar with that attack or that mechanic, the only difference was what dice you rolled. And when you're making the core rule book for the monster manual, you're making the baseline that everyone has to learn from. We have the advantage of not having to do that. By the time you are using one of these monsters, you are comfortable with the rule system, you've played many monsters, you've killed many monsters, everyone knows what they're doing. So we have the opportunity then to play with those mechanics without necessarily having to rely on what a slam attack is. Well, there's not a slam attack. Malka has a razor blade smile, and it's a little bit like the Geiger attack, maybe. Or she has blades in her fingers. Well, that's kind of unique, but now they paralyze you. There's similarities, but they're very much not formulaic to the monster manual. And this is going to surprise players and really require a little more reading and prep from the DM side to be comfortable with it. So they're very much not a pick up and play kind of thing. But if you're going through the trouble of assembling and painting the miniature, you've got the time to read the page or so of stats on the creature and get comfortable with the rules. But your players are going to have a lot of fun, so to speak, of encountering something, not just a unique miniature, but in an entirely different kind of mechanic, including the maps that we're putting in and integrating in with all of that. So when they start that encounter, they will have zero expectation, or they can have an expectation and be completely wrong about what they're going to be walking into. There will be damage, and there will be hit points, there will be armor classes and resistances. Beyond that, there's not going to be a lot they can be sure about.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And these maps are awesome, too.
There's no autopilot with Wicked's creature encounters.
No. And as a GM, it is their responsibility to really read over them. I know Malka may take some time to read over. She has a lot of things at once. Vorna is a huge stat block as is. And with everything else, even the Strigor. If you want to add a Strigor and add like little minions here and there, like a few Scopatera or Dynamo Beast, you're going to be page flipping. I mean, they're meant to be very variety based. So a player's fighting against it and they'll go, okay, this thing has more in its arsenal than what I was expecting. But we're not only looking at the players, we're also looking at the GM. We want the GM to have fun. And a lot of times I see is that a GM is just rolling a die, hitting the damage, and they're not having as much fun. So a lot of our monsters have kind of like a board game feel. Some of them are going to be very worker placement, especially Vorona. If you like worker placement games, Vorona's your baby. That thing is going to spawn up a lot of stuff, and it's going to be a lot of fun for you trying to kill your players, and a lot of fun for the players trying to kill you. So our goal is to make your experience very wicked.
I see what you did there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Do we have any more questions?
Rachel. This is the question from Mike. What is the exact function of your BDSM Cathedral bedpost?
Well, I mentioned this earlier. I positioned all of my hookers and blow just out of camera range. So I'm going to say, as far as the FBI is concerned, decorative.
Oh, we don't have money for an investigation.
Then let's hope they don't get a warrant.
Oh my god.
Who's your roommate again, Mike?
I'm going to say regret.
Well, if you guys are ready, we do have another question. All right, Alex wrote, essentially, is this something you wouldn't recommend for a casual gamer group? Curious for those who aren't the most experienced and want to change things up a little for their weekly, monthly game. Mike, what is your take on it? Because I feel like
if
you
you
can.
want to, if you want to just use the miniatures, it's perfectly fine to have something unique throw up against your players and look at this thing and ta-da.
Mhm.
The stat blocks that we provide for them might be a bit much. Um, you don't necessarily need to be like a min-max group to go up against these creatures, but experienced players that aren't constantly trying to look up their spells and forget the ones that they have, those are going to be the ones with problems. Your casual players that enjoy to have the more RP and they have the fights and things, but they're perfectly fine not having a fight in the night, those might be a little more difficult. And you might just want to make up a kinder, gentler, more squishy version of those figures. You can do whatever you want with them, including bludgeon other people with them. But
They are hard
Vorna,
plastic.
definitely.
They're
they
definitely
are
hard plastic.
They are Exhibit A in a possible investigation.
How heavy is
Not
the
for
Vorna?
me.
How many pounds is that mini?
Are you talking about Vorna?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Vornaut's like, how many pounds?
Oh well. The hard plastic version is gonna be hollow. Like, see?
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, so I gotta wash my hands now. It has all that chemical release stuff. Don't need that cancer. Yeah, cancer.
Don't worry, the actual one you get won't have the cancer.
Oh,
Yeah, so it's okay. Don't think that, no,
this
with
one's
cancer,
3D
this is not
printed.
a feature of our
Yeah.
minis. All right.
You have to touch it a lot for it to happen.
So fun is still viable with the figures. If for a casual group, you would just have to just pretty much throw out everything I did and make it your own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And when it comes to if you're also fighting against a group that they're not used to things as much, and you already you bought the book and everything, definitely just I would say the CR rating, maybe kind of look at it as if maybe being a tier like a level 1 or 2 above it. So like No Eye Jack. Well, No Eye Jack it feels like a CR5. Like a troll's a CR5 and a troll can heal and everything. No Eye Jack, it's just different. It's different because No Eye Jack actually holds a hostage. And so if a player is like derpy derp, I'm gonna attack No Eye Jack, and No Eye Jack pulls the other character in front of it, and the character hits the other character. I mean,
Yeah.
There are things that are just tricky. It's not more of it's luck. It's very luck.
And it's hard to CR that.
Yes, it is very hard to CR that.
If the party approaches it with just the same tool set every time, they're not going to make it.
Again, to go back to my previous point about having the monster manual, a troll's a troll, and those are the base creatures. Orc or ogre mage or another worm or dragon. We've killed all those. Those are all your baseline things. These figures are going to be your surprises, your single shots, your ones that they are going to walk in and they're not going to know what to do. If you're concerned about the difficulty, exactly what Charles said. Just make it so that the CR that we have on there, let the players be a level or 2 above that rather than below it. Don't make it a boss fight, but let the mechanics make it more difficult because they themselves aren't trying as hard in the encounter as a bunch of more experienced players. That's perfectly fine. That's just something you have to feel out for your group. There's no wrong way to have fun until the cops show up.
That's what Mike's headboard says.
Tonight has a theme.
There is nothing illegal about my headboard in this country.
Its style is illegal.
Catholic imagery behind me, whereas Charles and Mike do.
Are you talking about my skull? I love that thing. By a Mexican artist. It was expensive, and I like it.
Híjole is the word to think of.
Oh my god.
Well, you spawned and we didn't.
Well, we have another question from Alex. This one I have no clue. Sorry, Alex. I've never played Cthulhu style game. I'm
Oh
guessing
yeah,
you're
tabletop
Call
Cthulhu.
Cthulhu. So
Yeah.
he's saying, how many Wyona cheese can I kill in a single Cthulhu style game with these critters? I'm guessing he's laughing, so this is funny, and I cannot laugh because I don't know what you're talking about. So I'm just gonna like.
So
look like this.
Alex, if this is of course now the Alex that we think he is, he
Yeah.
GM'd a Cthulhu game that was the D21, and I played a male stripper named Dr. Coctopus, and Mike played a sexually addicted elementary school teacher from Wisconsin named Winona Cheese.
So there's a reason why I don't know this. Okay, I felt
Yeah,
pretty
sure you
bad.
betcha.
Oh, and that was the voice that he played the entire time.
Oh
Ooh,
my.
yeah, it was a big scary time, eh?
My character was such an idiot that his perception was so low, he almost had no idea of the unknown monstrosities going on around him, so he survived. Being a
Yeah.
moron paid off.
Okay, so you guys ready for the next ones?
Yeah?
All right, this is from Alcatraz again. For example, in Tales of Carcosa, will there ever be support for adding creatures to official campaigns, like in Pathfinder 3.5 Strange Ions, which your King in Yellow could be swapped with theirs?
Oh.
Like basically a modular system to support existing official campaigns.
The CRs would have to match, wouldn't they?
Yeah, that, and we would have to speak with Pathfinder. If it's an official, we can't provide anything. What you can always do is you can use our model, but the only problem is, I think the King in Yellow in Pathfinder is how many millimeters is that figure? It's a huge creature, right? Is it a medium?
I think it's a colossal. Is it not a colossal?
I actually have the book because we were actually comparing ours with it. Anyways, it's smaller. This one we're talking how many millimeters is this? It's like
Well, do you have the prototype around there?
I do. I have to always check its sizing.
He just
It's-
has to
it's a
limit
big
his cancer
boy.
exposure.
I'm a
As much as you can
hypochondriac. You don't
with
talk
this
to me. I'm a hypochondriac.
What
is it 5?
But Mike, converting
about 5
all of that
inches.
over to Pathfinder 1.
Doable.
Extensive.
It wouldn't be short, but some of the mechanics might not translate as well. But I mean, we could make them work. The biggest thing would probably just be the let's see.
Yeah, he's a medium.
He's
size.
a medium?
Yeah, the great old one, Haster. Yeah, he's a medium. So their
Oh,
King
that
Yellow is
would-
Haster. So yeah, you could not use our miniature. Our miniature is like
At least
way
on
bigger.
like a 1-to-1 translation, I mean, you could, as a GM, shoehorn anything in you wanted
Oh,
to, as
definitely.
long as you use some putty to fill in the cracks. It would be a radically different immediate encounter, but you'd have to translate over. I wonder what the CR rating on
theirs
Pathfinder.
is a 29. So Vornot's a CR 30, but Vornot is going to be a bit tougher than a Tarask, and I know that's ridiculous, but it's an end game kind of encounter, and it's a lot of the mechanics and everything require a board, these token systems, things that we haven't really showcased yet because the illustrations are still coming through. We didn't want to like tell people about it, not show it. So hey, if you buy Carcosa, you're going to be in for a surprise when you get all this stuff. You're like, whoa, I didn't know this was included. But when it comes to our Voronaut, it's inspired by the King Ale. It's inspired by Haster by looks, but when it comes to the story elements, they're not even close to the same. It's two different.
And a lot of the mechanics require the layer almost to operate for our Voronaut. But Mike, how long is the encounter for the Voronaut supposed to take for a party of 5? What was it we talked like? That's like a 6-hour event.
I would wager if you don't if you have a group that doesn't get on their phone, you could probably do like 3.5 hours.
Okay.
Like you go, you go, you go, you go, and no one slows things down. If you are fine having a much larger group and like letting them have a meta conversation on strategy and stuff, yeah, that could easily start going into 4, 5, 6 hours. Call it a night one night and come back.
Yeah.
Like that is completely plausible to do.
Part of it is
And it's
also
not just hit points. It's not just because like there's
Yeah.
8 bajillion hit points. Like it's just that there are things happening and it's a whole ballet, and a lot of things can go wrong. Plates are spinning, things are happening, people are running around, people make mistakes, they recover from mistakes. That's what you use the wish spell for, and so it's just it takes time.
and the GM's turns are substantial.
Yeah.
They're not short terms. It's like you're playing Last Night on Earth.
And then it plays in between other people's turns, so it's a
Yeah.
lot of GM time.
Also, in my experience, Pathfinder encounters tend to take a little bit longer. So if you converted it over to Pathfinder, it would probably be a longer fight. But I don't know.
Especially
about
the floating modifiers in Pathfinder.
Yeah.
Stacking those up. Oh, I cast this spell. That gives me +2. That gives me +1. This is my luck bonus. This is my
Right.
and then you got to calculate. Remember that. Oh nope, that expired 2 turns ago. Nope, this comes back now. Now I'm dazed. Now so like all of that stuff, those free flowing calculations they'll just take time.
Mm-hmm.
Good question. Tough question.
Well, that is all the questions I see right now. If anyone else would like to add a new question, I think we can spare 10 more minutes. What do you guys think?
Oh yeah, sure. But if anyone has a question, if not, I mean, I
Definitely.
don't want to subject everyone to looking at me for 10 minutes.
Oh, absolutely. So because there's a somewhat of a lag, we'll wait. Okay, Alcatraz said, okay, thanks, sounds great, because I bought myself one, and this sounds like a lot more than I myself was expecting. Can't wait. Oh, we're glad. Yay.
Awesome, good. And if it's overwhelming, please talk to us, because we're going to have other people who are going to have questions. If your party needs alterations or whatever, we're easy to get a hold of. I mean, talk to Mike. If you're like, well, I can't do this or this in the combat situation that my party is going to be walking into, Mike can probably just give a quick off-the-cuff advice and, yeah, talk to us.
Always shoot a message at our info@wickedfoundations.com.
Yeah, or Facebook.
Our Facebook Messenger, anything, yeah.
Yeah. Because we'll be really curious, and even if you do find that you make individual changes and homebrew up anything of ours, show it off. We really want to see what your ideas were and what worked for you, so we could steal them.
All right. Well, we thank everyone for your time.
Yep.
Again, my name is Charles. Above me is Mike. Below me is Will.
It's like the
writer,
Brady Bunch. We need
designer,
people on either side now.
Producer guy thing, idea guy thing, something like that. And we will all see you later. And happy gaming and stay wicked. Do 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 do. And bye.